Hello and welcome to this very special edition of The Interview, where we're in conversation with an Indian American who spent the last half century in the US building a business, one of the most successful businesses in the country, and more importantly, having an active role in American politics, and now is part of Mr. Donald Trump's campaign as far as the US elections 2016 are concerned. We're in conversation with Mr. Shalabh Kumar. Mr. Shalabh Kumar, thank you so much for taking time out to be with us here on ET Now. I have one very simple question to start this interview with. Why did you choose to put your money, and I'm talking over $1 million, making you one of the largest donors to Mr. Donald Trump's campaign? Why did you choose to put your money where Mr. Donald Trump's mouth is?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me here. Namaste to all your viewers. Good question. My Janam Bhumi is Bharat, India. My Karam Bhumi, last 50 years, is United States of America. And it is my mission, it is my dream to make 21st century to be Indo-American century. I do anything to make sure that we are on that path. We are slowly and surely on that path, but a dramatic change in policy needs to take place, and it's pretty obvious to me that a Donald Trump presidency achieves that goal with respect to a very close relationship between U.S. and India. My dream, I am a student of history. It sort of goes back to a time frame when India was under Samudragupta's rule. It was 85% of world's GDP.
Yeah.
Okay, so at that time we were, whatever is called, golden age of India. India has run into issues over a period of time, but it has the potential, India has the potential to be the second largest economy in the world. And the fact that these are the two largest democracies in the world operating on the same principles, there is no reason that US and India should not be the closest allies on this earth, the most powerful economies, and the person who is going to make that happen, that a second, let's say, avatar of Ronald Reagan is Donald Trump, and is certainly not Hillary Clinton.
You know why I started off with this question. You know, when you talk about Indian Americans in the US, an overwhelming majority are usually Democrats. Here you have an Indian who's managed to run a successful business. We will get to that in a bit. Here's an Indian who's spent so much time in the US, managed to build a successful business, but is a Republican for the last 3 decades.
Yes.
How is that possible?
You see, just like most other Indian Americans, for the first, let's say, 10 years, I went to United States in 69.
Yep.
Until 79, for the first 10 years, I was also a die-hard Democrat until I met then candidate Reagan, Governor Reagan, and you start looking at the policy. It's a question of education. Indian American demographic in the country and our value system is such that once they are educated and once there are some changes in the Republican Party in how to approach the Indian American community, which we are doing, then I have no doubt that the tables will totally turn. Right now it's 2/3 to sometimes some polls say 2/3, some say 3/4 of Indian Americans vote Democrat, and the balance, 1/4 to 1/3 vote Republican. There is no reason why it should not be the opposite. And in fact, we have proved it out. We proved that out because I'm not only a financial donor, I'm a grassroots guy as well. We have a district in Illinois, that is Schaumburg district. It's called District 8, where there's a 10% of the voting population is Indian American, and we were able to, in 2012, we were able to transform, we were able to switch 10,000 votes in an election which constituted to almost, let's say, 5% of the vote. That's a big number. It's a question of education. If you educate Indian Americans, they come to know about all what is going on. And particularly this, if it was Bill Clinton, it'll be different. Hillary Clinton and her chief of staff, that Huma, and John Kerry, and all the policies which they have been into, taking money from Lashkar people and ISI people and all that. So it's just when Indian Americans come to know about that, this is an easy switch.
Mr. Donald Trump's statements, on his immigration policies, building a wall against the Mexicans, that has really not gone down well with a lot of Indians as well, because at the end of the day, we're also worried about our fellow Indians who are immigrants in the US. And here you have an Indian who is not just a Republican, but is willing to put over $1 million into Mr. Donald Trump's campaign.
You see, if I was in that position, if I was a candidate for the president, or I had anything to do with that, and I don't intend to be in politics that way at all, but I will take the same step. You see, India, look at India. India is fortunate to be protected from two sides with the ocean, and from the top, Himalayas. It has natural protection. On the other hand, United States has got a huge border with Mexico from the south. Okay, if you don't have borders, you don't have a country, and that is a problem. It's a big burden on American taxpayer. Okay, with all the let's say undocumented workers, more politically correct word, but illegal aliens. That used to be the word which was for them, and that should be stopped, particularly now in this day and age where our enemies, U.S. enemies, ISIS and Al-Qaeda, they have openly declared that they are going to infiltrate the country, ISIS operatives, Al-Qaeda operatives, through the Mexican border. It's only natural. We should have a wall. I mean, not a physical wall. We should have an electronic wall, and a serious profiling, serious checks for national security. The first responsibility of a president of a country is safety of its citizens. And that is the most important element. And also, overall, there is way too much drug traffic. Every day you will hear a news. For your viewers, they should get a little familiar with that. Every day they find a tunnel almost every week they find a tunnel from Mexico to U.S. Some really underground tunnel, very elaborate tunnel. Mexico is, for a major part, doesn't really have a good, strong government. It's run by the drug lords. The drug lords are sending so much drugs to the United States. It's not good for America in any way. So the wall should be created. It does not mean at all, and I have 100% complete assurance from Donald Trump that he would welcome talent from India. Talk about S744 bill that deals with H1L1 visas. You love to have the H1 to green card process simplified. It takes now 10 years, 12 years, 15 years to get a green card.
Yes.
Our party wants to have this thing changed to 1 year, 2 years, as it used to be back in in the 80s, late 70s. So the talent, legal immigration is very, very welcome. His wife, Melania, is an immigrant.
Yeah.
So, there is it's a caricature of left-wing media to portray that he's anti-immigration. He's anti-illegal immigration that deals with drugs or terrorism.
You were talking about 70s and 80s, so I'm just going to take this back to the 70s and 80s. 1969 is when you first set foot in the United States of America, with, from what I understand, a $3,000 debt because you didn't have enough finances for your studies at that point in time. And from then on, you went on to build AVG Group, electronic equipments company, a very successful one at that. As an Indian, from then till now, talk to us in terms of, how's the journey been, and where do you stand at this point in time?
Well, America is one of the greatest countries you can imagine. There have been fears. As I went to the United States, you always wonder whether there's going to be some kind of a discrimination, whether I used to think whether people will buy from a brown American, in electronics, and that's where we actually started AVG, and with a logo, with a motto, innovation by design. So everything which we do is innovative. That's the basic philosophy which we went with. So, in that process, we have introduced 500 new different product lines in the country, and created a lot of industries. One of the things which I'm well known for is the invention of the McDonald's French fry computer. Okay. So anyway, the America is, in a way, for the most part, is colorblind, it's race blind, it's really talent looking. So if you have talent, and that's why Indian Americans today are, the CEOs of so many Fortune 500, Fortune 1000 companies in the United States. So my experience over the years has been very, very good. I will tell you this, if I look back at 50 years, there is not a moment I have felt in roughly 48 years where I have felt that I have been discriminated against at all from anybody.
Mr. Kumar, we're looking at an eventuality where it will be either Hillary Clinton or Mr. Donald Trump who will become the next president of the United States of America. If Mr. Donald Trump were to end up being the elected president of the United States of America, how will it impact ties between India and America? I'm asking in terms of trade ties, I'm asking in terms of visa norms, everything that connects Indians to America, all of that will be impacted, one way or the other. So far we've had a Democrat rule for the last, back-to-back Democrat rules, and you're talking about a Donald Trump, a controversial figure becoming the president. So my simple question to you is that if Mr. Donald Trump were to become the president, talk to us about how it will impact everything from visa norms to trade ties.
Well, one thing I can tell you right away, that his wish, and it's going to happen, currently the trade between U.S. and India sits at $120 billion a year. Next 5 years, hopefully by the time his first presidency itself is going to move up to $400 to $500 billion. A lot of trade increase. And I will tell you very specifically, there is lots of things which currently get suppressed because of the U.S. legislation. Your viewers probably do not totally understand the American system of government. There are 3 branches of government. Let's just talk about 2 right now. One is the executive, which is the president of the country, and the other one is the legislative body, which is the House of Representatives and the Senate. The President of the United States does not have any authority to spend even a cup of coffee. That's all has to come from the House of Representatives. The Constitution of the United States gives that authority to the U.S. Congress. And unfortunately, the previous administration, the Democrat administrations, have been pushing hard for legislation that is anti-trade with India. I'll tell you specifically one, S744 bill. That was a bill being pushed very hard by the executive branch by Obama, that would have hurt India's economy to the tune of $30 billion per year. It will lose in exports. And also, it will be very detrimental to, as defined by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, to U.S. industry also. He did it because to fulfill his promise, he's in 2008 campaign, and 2012 he also did the same thing. Jobs in Buffalo, not in Bangalore. That was his theme, even though it does not really make any sense, but he was pushing for that. So, I talked about that with Donald Trump, and that's a pretty simple answer. It's silly. That's the S744, that should just go to the garbage can. That's pretty simple. Even though the S744 by the House of Representatives did get stopped. I have another responsibility. I'm chairman of the Indian American Advisory Council to the House of Representatives of Republican-controlled House of Representatives of the United States. So any bill that comes to the floor, they do ask my opinion. So it's not that every time they listen to me, but I get to see it and I get to opine that. So when S744 bill came to the House, like equivalent of your Lok Sabha, and then that was killed right there. But a Hillary administration will push that 744 back. And Donald Trump, that just won't even be introduced. The other thing in terms of trade, India wants American defense equipment, advanced equipment. Okay, if I understand correctly, India is right now in the market for roughly $2 billion of advanced defense equipment. And unfortunately, the laws of the United States are still sitting. Now, that is the U.S. Congress. The laws are still sitting in the Cold War days, where the American companies are barred from selling to India advanced electronics equipment. In fact, I haven't seen that statement myself, that one time Prime Minister Modi said that, under the current existing laws, all the U.S. can do is give us toys, not really weaponry. And that thing, first day, it goes out under Trump. That thing is no question about it.
All right.
It just goes out.
You were talking about Mr. Modi. I was going to come to that. You're also a very big fan and supporter of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Talk to us. So, you are a supporter of Narendra Modi, who's already the Prime Minister of India. You are supporting Donald Trump, who could become the President of the United States of America. How do you see, these two leaders, if that were to be the eventuality, coming together for the sake of both countries?
You see, the philosophy of both these leaders is the same. So then when it starts out with that, then, everything is a positive. It's, what was Modi's campaign here? Government has no business being in government, or something like that. Or development.
Less government, more governance.
Right, more governance, less government. And then it was, our Donald Trump's limited government, very limited government. Government, he doesn't want to see government involved in business. Private enterprise, big champion of private enterprise. So that thing, they have so many similarities in terms of their philosophies and the outlook. Modi, no matter how he was, people made a caricature of him that he will be anti-Muslim or anti-this or anti-this, but he is really color blind and race blind and religion blind and everything. He's is all for development. As the same way is Donald Trump. It's development. Everybody wants these iPhones. Everybody wants gadgets. Everybody, the whole, even Pakistani people, everybody, Middle Eastern people, they should be all focused on development, economic development, development of the planet. and rather than getting involved in all these terrorist activities and religious activities and all that. I mean, there is nothing wrong with I'm a Hindu, so nothing wrong with being religious, but to use religion for anything other than that is bad.
All right. I was just going to arrive at the next point that I want to discuss with you. You'd also founded in November 2015 the RHC, or the Republican Hindu Coalition. Talk to us about that.
That inspiration and actually the whole mechanism of the Republican Hindu Coalition, some of you might be surprised to hear, that came from one of the most powerful, if not the most powerful organization in the United States. Is called Republican Jewish Coalition. There are 5 million to 6 million, somewhere there, Jewish Americans in the United States.
Right.
And they have RJC. They have so much influence on American policy vis-a-vis the relationship with Israel. Okay. Now, I attended in April of 2015. They invited me to participate and become a member, a senior member of the RJC, and an idea got born there. They learning a little more about Hindu Americans from me, and they said, this is a natural thing. You should start Republican Hindu Coalition. So they lent their apparatus, they lent their connections. I was well connected in the House, but I was not connected with the Senate. So they were instrumental in forming. Newt Gingrich is a very good friend of mine, and goes back to 1980, the Reagan timeframe, and smartest guy on this earth. Okay? It takes him 30 seconds. If I have to explain something to some other politician for 20 minutes, it takes him 30 seconds to explain to him. So I went to him. I said, Speaker, RJC is advising that we should form RHC. Go ahead. I'll love to be his honorary chair. Simple. Yep. You don't have to go through all the explanation. It was enough for him. RJC, RHC, best thing to do. He said that will be, he's on record by stating that will have an historical effect on world events, historical impact on world events. This formation of RHC, it was formed in November 2015 with the blessings of the entire leadership of the party.
All right. I only asked this question because it could have easily been RIC, Republican Indian Coalition. Why did it have to be RHC?
You see, several reasons. One is RIC, in a way, sort of in the past 20 years so has existed, but really not been very effective. Okay. Then same RIC has been. It's called. They don't call it coalition, but Republican Indian Committee. Something like that has been there. So that didn't make any sense. The more important reason for that is, one thing which we say, we should be proud of being Hindus. There is nothing wrong with, yes, we are very pacifist. We don't go out and attack. We don't convert people to Hinduism. But we should be proud of our heritage. We should be proud to be a Hindus. And another factor there is there are roughly 3 million Hindu Americans from India, maybe 2.8. But there are another 1.2 million Hindu Americans who are not from India, who are from other parts, who are from Sri Lanka, who are from Caribbeans, who were born and raised there, from Africa, from other parts of the world. So this is a organization of Hindu Republicans. It's a broader organization than limited only to Republican, to Indian Americans.
On that note, it's a wrap here on the interview. Mr. Shalabh Kumar, thank you so much for taking time out to be with us here on ET Now.
Thank you for having me on ET Now. Glad to talk to your viewers.
Thank you.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/etnow and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at etnowlive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/etnow.